Testing 1, 2, 3.
反正 we can hear you.
声音可以吗？你们网络上
可以，非常好。
不好意思，我刚刚关了静音，你们声音可以吗？
可以，没有问题。Thank you.
Okay. Okay, everybody take their seats. If at home you have a shrine room, if at home you have an altar or a shrine room, then you can do the recitation in front of your shrine room, your altar. Okay, so let us then bow down. So we bow 3 times. And then we start. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Iti piso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vijacharana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhammasarati Tadeva manusanang buddho bhagavati. Namo tassa samma sambuddhassa. Ye cha buddha atita cha ye cha buddha anagata. Pachupanna chaye buddha ahang vandami sabada nati me saranang anyang Buddho me saranang varang. Etena satchavajena hotu me jayamangalang. Uttamangena vandeham padapangzung varuttamang. Buddheo kalito doso Buddho kamatutang mamang. Buddhang yavanibana pariyantang saranang gacchami. Swakato bhagavata dhammo sanditiko akaliko ehipasiko opanayako pachatang veditabo vinyuhiti. Namo tassa niyanika dhammasa ye cha dhamma atita cha ye cha dhamma anagata pajupanna jaye dhamma ahang vandami sabada nati me saranang anyang dhammo me saranang varang etena satchavajena hotu me jayamangalang uttamangena vandeham Dhamman chatividang varang Dhammeyo kalito doso Dhammo kamatutang mamang Dhammang yavanibana pariyantang saranang gacchami. Supatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Ujupatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Nyayapatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Samicipatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho Yadidang Chattari Purisa Yukani Atta Purisa Pugala Esa Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Ahuneyo Pahuneyo Dakineyo Anjali Karaniyo Anuttarang punya ketang lokasati. Namo tassa atta ariya pugala mahasanggasa. Ye cha sangha atita cha ye cha sangha anagata. Pajupanna chaye sangha ahang vandami sabada nati me saranang anyang sangho me saranang varang etena satchavajena hotu me jayamangalang uttamangena vandeham Sangham chatuviduttamang Sangheyo kalito doso Sangho kamatutang mamang Sanghang yavanibana pariyantang saranang gacchami. Vandami chaitiyang sabang sabatane supatiti tang saririkadatu mahabodhing
Buddha Rupang Sakalang Sada. Imaya Dhamma no Dhamma Patipateya Buddhang Pujame. Imaya Dhamma no Dhamma Patipateya Dhammang Pujame. Imaya Dhamma no Dhamma Patipateya Sanghang Pujami. Okay, for the evening chanting, we do the Metta Sutta, which in the printout should be on page 8. So this is the Metta Sutta, the hymn of loving kindness. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa karaniyang atta kusalena yang tang santang padang abhisamecha sako jucha sujucha suvacho cha sabuddhu anatimani santu sakocha subarocha apakichocha salahukavutti santindriyocha subarocha apakicho kulesu ananukito nacha kudang samachare kinchi yena venyu pare upavadeyung Sukino va kemino hantu sabe sata bhavantu sukhitata ye keichi pana bhutati tasava tavarava anavasesa
Digava eva mahanta Jimarasaka nukatula
Adita vayeva adita ye chadure vasanti avidure bhuta vasambhave seva sabbe sata bhavantu sukhitata naparo parang nikubeta nati manyeta gatachinam kanchi Pyaro sanapatika sanya nanyamanya sadukamicheya matayata niyamputang ayusa ekaputang anurake evam pisa babutesu manasambhavareya parimanang Metancha sabalokasmin manasambhavayeya parimanang udang adocha tiriyancha asambadang gavedang asapattang titang charang nisinova sayanu vaya vatasavi katamito Etang sating aditeya brahmametang viharang idamahu titing cha anupagam silava dasanena sampanno kamesu vinayagedang nahi jatu gapaseyang punareti. Then we go to the blessings after the sutta. This is on page 10. Etena sachavajena sotite hotu sabada etena sachavajena sabarogo vinasatu, etena sachavajena hotu te jayamangalam. Then the blessing verses. Sabityo vivajantu sabarogo vinasatu, mate bhavatu antarayo sukhi digayuko bhava, bhavatu sabba mangalang rakantu sabba devata, sabba buddhanubhavena sada soti bhavantu te, bhavatu sabba mangalang rakantu sabba devata, sabba dhammanubhavena sada soti bhavantu te, bhavatu sabba mangalang rakantu sabba devata, sabba sanganubhavena sada soti bhavantu te. And then we do the sharing of the merits. Akasata chabumata deva naga mahitika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu sasanang. Akasata chabumata deva naga mahitika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu desanang. Akasata jabumata deva naga mahedika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu mang parang. Then the aspiration. Emina punyakamena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana patiya idang me punya kamang asavakaya vahang hotu sabadukha pamuchatu ti. We do sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, and then we end the service with 3 bows. First bow. Okay, then we stand up and we do a half bow to the Buddha. Okay, Okay, is everything good? Everything okay? Okay, so now we can begin. Okay, so I'm going to give a short talk on the relationship in Buddhism. Okay, I'm going to give now. Okay, I'm going to give now a short talk. Is my voice coming through? Okay. I'm going to give a short talk now on the relationship between faith and wisdom in the practice of the Dhamma. Because what we have been doing in this, the practice that we've been doing all throughout the day today, has been primarily a faith-based practice. But in Buddhism, faith is never divorced from wisdom. So we always need these two qualities functioning together in some kind of balance. But in order for the wisdom to arise, to truly be the wisdom that accords with the Buddha Dharma, the insight into things as they really are, we have to begin with faith as the starting point. So there is a number of suttas in which the Buddha stresses the importance of faith. One sutta comes in these that I always like to refer to. It comes in the Sutta Nipata, in Sutta number 4. It's called the Bharadvaja Sutta, in which the Buddha encounters a farmer named Bharadvaja, and Bharadvaja tells the Buddha, he sees the Buddha walking for alms, to collect food in his bowl. And the farmer tells the Buddha, you should do some work. You shouldn't just go around begging for food from others. And then the Buddha says, I do my work. I am also a farmer who cultivates crops, who cultivates the grain. And then the farmer is puzzled and says to the Buddha, I've never seen you do any farming work. I don't see that you have a plow or any farming equipment. So how can you say that you do farming work? And then the Buddha starts off by explaining how he cultivates the minds and hearts of human beings, how he develops the good qualities in the hearts and minds of human beings until those good qualities reach their harvest, their fruit, in the attainment of the deathless, the attainment of Nibbana. And the Buddha goes through a whole series of verses in which he compares different aspects of his practice or training to different stages of farming, to different stages in the process of cultivating crops. And at the very beginning, the Buddha says, Saddha Bijang, which means faith is the seed. And so that indicates that all of the higher stages of the practice of the spiritual path emerge out of saddha, out of faith, confidence, or trust in the Buddha. And then there's another sutta, also in the Sutta Nipata, called the Alavaka Sutta. And in this sutta, a demon, a yaksha named Alavaka, asked the Buddha, how does one cross the flood? How does one cross, that is, what's implied by the words is how does one cross this terrible flood of samsara, the flood of unbroken sequence of birth and death? How does one reach the other shore of nirvana? the deathless. And the Buddha says it is by saddha, by faith, that one crosses the flood. But he doesn't stop there, but he goes on to say, by energy, one crosses over this terrible deluge. And it's by heedfulness, by diligence, that one eliminates suffering, and by wisdom, that one is fully purified. And so we see here what's implied by these expression, by these lines of the verse. We have actually references, subtle references to 4 of the spiritual faculties. So one starts off with faith in order to cross the flood, but then one needs the faculty of energy. One has to make an effort. It's not just enough to have faith. And then one needs diligence or heedfulness. And the key factor in heedfulness is mindfulness. So sometimes the commentaries explained the word diligence as meaning constancy or continuity of mindfulness. And it's through that constancy of mindfulness that one arrives at concentration. And then it's through wisdom, the verse says, that one is fully purified. So wisdom is the faculty that exercises the function of eliminating or eradicating the defilements, the hindrances, the bonds. Okay, so I want to raise now the question, like when we speak about saddha in Buddhism, sometimes I know that Western people, especially people who come from a Christian background, get a bit turned off when they hear the word saddha translated as faith, though I like to translate it as faith because I don't think faith necessarily implies blind, unquestioning acceptance of dogma the way it does in certain other religions. So what is the defining characteristic of saddha in Buddhism? So according to the Buddhist texts, especially texts like the Visuddhimagga, it said that the defining characteristic of saddha is trust. So when we have faith in the Buddha, it means that we place trust in the Buddha, that we accept the Buddha for the claims that are made about him, that he is a fully enlightened teacher, and we're willing to accept his teachings, even those that we can't verify for ourselves, out of trust, out of belief, out of confidence that the Buddha knows what he's talking about. But this trust and confidence that we place in the Buddha should not be just blind trust, blind faith. And so we make a distinction, even the suttas make a distinction between blind faith, which just means you accept anything without examination, without questioning, without investigation. And then there's something that they call akaravati saddha. This is faith which is based on reasons, faith which is justified by reasons. And so the way that we establish this, I call this intelligent faith or wise faith, is by examining the Dhamma. Of course, many people who come from traditional Buddhist backgrounds are taught from their childhood to have faith in the Triple Gem and to show homage to the Buddha and so forth. But sometimes that traditional kind of faith can be limiting because one doesn't confirm the truth of the Dhamma to oneself. So one just accepts it blindly as part of tradition. And so the way to establish this intelligent faith or wise faith is by studying the Dhamma and testing the Dhamma in order to see whether we can confirm certain aspects of the teaching in our own experience. And since I come from a Western background, I'm American, of course, American. So in a way, that was the way I came to the Dhamma, and the way I know many Westerners who come from non-Buddhist backgrounds have come to embrace the Dhamma. And so we start off by looking at those teachings of the Buddha that we can investigate with the light of our own experience. And so what I found most helpful in this respect is the teaching that the Buddha gives in the Kalama Sutta, the discourse to the Kalamas. This is in the Anguttara Nikaya, the Book of Threes. I think it's Sutta number 65 or somewhere around there. And so the Kalamas were people, they were not followers of the Buddha, and when the Buddha arrived at their town, they came to him and they said that they're very confused by all of the different teachings that they're receiving from different spiritual teachers. And so they asked the Buddha to give them some kind of way to get out from this confusion and perplexity and the kind of dead end that they've reached, having to negotiate all of these contradictory teachings. And so the Buddha didn't begin by teaching them the Four Noble Truths, the three marks of existence, dependent origination, the workings of karma and rebirth, but he taught them something that they can look at and investigate in terms of their own direct experience. And what he did is to ask them, when greed, when hatred and anger, when stupidity and foolishness takes over your mind, does that lead to your welfare and happiness? And they say, no, it doesn't. When you're in the grip of greed, hatred, and stupidity, are you going to act for your own good, for the good of others, for the good of both? And they say no. And how about when you're acting contrary to the basic standards of good conduct? When you kill, steal, commit sexual misconduct, when you tell falsehoods, does that really make you happy and content? And do you feel at peace with yourself? And they say no. And when you act in that way, are you benefiting your family, your community, your society? They say no. Then he turns on the positive side. How about when your mind is calm and pure and clear, when you're practicing generosity, when you feel kindness and loving kindness towards others, when you have wise discernment, mindfulness, and clear understanding, then do you feel happy and at peace within yourself? They say yes. And when you have states of mind like that, what is the impact on others? It's beneficial to others. And how about when you are observing these basic standards of good conduct? When you are following the precept, abstaining from killing, from stealing, from sexual misconduct, from false speech, then does your conduct bring clear conscience to your own mind? Yes, it does. And when you behave in that way, do you have a good impact on your family, your community, the society? Yes, we do. And so by examining in this way, we could see whenever greed, hate, and delusion arise, it's harmful to ourselves, harmful to others. When the mind is free from greed, hatred, and delusion, full of generosity, kindness, and wisdom, then this is beneficial to ourselves. It lifts us up and it makes us a source of benefit to others. So on this basis, through this kind of investigation, we could see the benefits of overcoming greed, hate, and delusion and fulfilling the good qualities of generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. And those are the principles that the Buddha teaches that are visible here and now. They're Ditta Dhamma, they're Sanditiko, Ditta Dhamma Vedaniya. They can be seen and understood right here and now. And so when we see and can confirm these principles of the Buddha's teaching, then we can have trust and confidence that if we can fully overcome, fully eradicate greed, hate, and delusion, that we will achieve the ultimate good for ourselves and be able to truly benefit others in the highest way. And so that instills in us confidence, the way it's worked for me, instilled trust and confidence in the Buddha as a wise and enlightened teacher. And on that basis, I was willing to place confidence and trust in those aspects of the Dhamma that I could not see and verify through my own experience. So particularly the Buddha teaches about I'm going to come to that. Okay, so I said that in practicing the Buddha's path, we have to balance faith with wisdom. And one way we do that, as I just showed, is by basing our faith on investigation, on examination. And the particular quality, I believe, that serves as the bridge between faith and wisdom, that combines both, is right view, samadhi. Because faith, the way it's explained in the text, means faith in the enlightenment of the Buddha. So we find very often when the texts speak about the 5 faculties, they raise the question, what is the faculty of faith? And then the answer given is that the disciple has faith in the enlightenment of the Buddha. So it's not so much faith in the personality of the Buddha, so of course that comes along, but one places faith in the fact that the Buddha has achieved a realization which gives him the profound understanding of the fundamental truths about the human condition and the understanding of the ultimate good, the ultimate goal of human life, and the way to achieve that good. And so we have faith in the enlightenment of the Buddha, and the Buddha as an enlightened one. And this means when we have faith in the enlightenment of the Buddha, that we are willing to place trust in his teaching, the teachings that flow out from that enlightenment. And those teachings are grounded and in wisdom and give us the means to develop our own wisdom. And so when we place trust in the teaching of the Buddha out of faith, there are 2 things in which we primarily place trust. Maybe we could call this 2 levels of the teaching. We call this the mundane level, or the teaching that expounds and that explains the nature of mundane or worldly existence, and trust in the world dimension, the world transcending dimension of the Buddha's teaching. So placing trust in the mundane side of the Buddha's teaching means accepting on trust the teaching of karma and the fruit of karma. That is, accepting on trust that our intentional deeds, our volitional actions create a kind of potency in the mind, that they have a potential that builds up in the mind to produce results for ourselves, to bounce back and rebound upon ourselves in ways that correspond to the ethical nature of the original action. So this is, we call this a trust or faith in the ethical nature of the universe, that there is at work hidden behind the workings of events in the universe, in our own life, an invisible law that connects our intentional actions with the felt quality of our lives, that our actions create this karma, which over time ripens and bounces back to us and affects the nature of our lives. So according to this law, unwholesome actions, actions springing from greed, hatred, stupidity, and other defilements, actions which bring harm to others, suffering to others intentionally, create unwholesome karma, which will eventually come back to us and bring misery and suffering to us. And that our good actions, our virtuous actions, our actions, altruistic actions intended to promote the true well-being of ourself and others, create this pure or wholesome karma, which will eventually come back to us and promote our well-being and happiness. And for this karma to bring its proper fruition, it requires that our life does not come to an end at death, but that life continues beyond the death of the body, so that we go on in existence, taking rebirth in one form or another. The form of rebirth conditioned by the karma that we've created and the results that we receive within any given life, coming about through the ripening of karma that we've created in the past. So this is one aspect of faith or trust in the Buddha, placing faith or trust in the workings of the law of karma, having the trust or confidence that there is an ethical law working behind and beneath our events, ensuring that our intentional actions, those actions that are morally significant, are good and bad, wholesome and unwholesome actions, ensuring that those actions bounce back at us. Just as if I take a ball and throw it against the wall, that ball will bounce back and come back to me with a velocity, with a momentum, maybe equal to that of the force with which I threw it. So that is one aspect of right view, a kind of wisdom that emerges from faith, since we have now a clear understanding, even if we don't know the workings of karma in detail, but at least we have this understanding that our life occurs sort of embraced and enveloped in a moral process, an ethical process that underlies the working of events, ensuring that our own actions eventually come back to us in accordance with their ethical nature. The other aspect of right view that is a kind of wisdom that arises out of faith, and that is trust in the Four Noble Truths. So the Four Noble Truths is call it the framework for liberation, the framework that points towards the ultimate world transcending goal. And so we could see certain aspects of the Four Noble Truths directly in our own experience. So we see that when we have craving, there is some degree of discontent, dissatisfaction, frustration, resentment, disappointment, misery. In other words, certain types of dukkha directly and immediately connected with craving. And we could also see that to the extent that we reduce this craving, that we feel that much more content, that much more satisfied. So if we can reduce our craving 10%, we feel 10% happier. If we can reduce the craving 20%, we feel 20% happier. So this is an aspect of the Four Noble Truths that is visible here and now. But what the Buddha also teaches is that the truth of dukkha, of suffering, is not just confined to this present life, but in the deepest sense, dukkha applies to the suffering in the beginningless round of samsara, that we pass through this constant cycle of taking birth, growing up, then falling, growing old, decaying, falling ill, passing away, and then taking birth again, and going through that cycle over and over again without any discoverable beginning. But what the Buddha declares, and this is really the key to the third noble truth, is that there is an end to the round of repeated existence. There is a state of liberation from the cycle of repeated birth and death, and that this liberation from the cycle can be attained, has to be attained, not just by reducing craving, not just by controlling craving, but by eradicating craving. And he teaches that it's possible to develop the insight, wisdom that will penetrate into the deepest layers of the mind and can cut off and uproot the defilements entirely, so that the mind will reach and attain and experience the anasava ceto vimutti panya vimutti, that is the undefiled liberation of mind, liberation by wisdom, that is to be attained through the destruction of the defilements. And so that is the faith connected with wisdom is the faith that by following this Noble Eightfold Path, by following this threefold training of moral discipline, samadhi, concentration, and wisdom, it is possible to overcome craving and all the other defilements connected with craving and attain complete liberation from dukkha, to attain nibbana, the unconditioned, irreversible freedom from all suffering. And so that undertaking of the practice, the undertaking of the threefold training, the undertaking of the Noble Eightfold Path, proceeds from right view. And that right view arises through this faith or trusting confidence that we place in the enlightenment of the Buddha, in accepting the Buddha as being one who is understood in the fullest way and in the deepest way, the real nature of our human existence, and out of compassion for us has taught us and guided us along that liberating path. And with this, I will conclude the talk and wish you all success in the continued practice. Okay, now we'll take a little 10-minute break, and then we'll come back for the last sessions of Recollection of the Buddha. And we're going to be intensifying the practice in these last sessions. And then we'll end the day with the sharing of the merits. Okay, so I just do the standard way of sharing the merits from the talk. Akasata chabumata deva naga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu sasanang. Akasata chabumata deva naga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu desanang. Akasata chabumata deva naga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu mang parang. Okay, please be back in your seat at 8 o'clock. Okay, so we are ready to resume now. So let us take our familiar sitting meditation posture. And then again, settle the awareness into the body. Let the mind go to the region of the heart. And you can imagine there in the heart the lotus flower, and then a beautiful image of Buddha sitting in the lotus flower. And now we're going to do the Buddhanusati, the recollection of the Buddha, using just the three qualities, the three designations that we used during the last session. Okay, you can feel yourself now in the presence of the Buddha, as though the Buddha was standing before you. And then we bring the Buddha to mind. First, the Buddha is Arahang, the worthy one, the one worthy of the offerings and veneration, the one who is fully purified of all the mental defilements, the liberated one who has broken the bonds of birth, aging, and death, the one liberated from the round of birth and death. Arahang, Arahang, the worthy one. And if you find the mind drifting and wandering, just bring it back. Just repeating the quality or repeating the designation, but not mechanically, not just reciting like a mantra, but trying to appreciate the meaning of the expression and using the designation, the quality, to generate that esteem, admiration, reverence, veneration for the Buddha. So Arahang, the worthy one, the worthy one. Samma Sambuddho, the perfectly enlightened one, the one whose unobstructed knowledge has fathomed the deepest nature of all phenomena, the one whose knowledge encompasses the nature of all phenomena. Samma Sambuddho, the perfectly enlightened one. Buddha is Bhagava, the Blessed One, the one who embodies all the most excellent, meritorious qualities. The one of great compassion, who serves as the source of blessings for the world. So Bhagava, the Blessed One, here we do another round, and again, let the qualities sort of sink into the heart and awaken the feelings of esteem, admiration, reverence, veneration, trusting confidence. The Buddha is Arahang, the worthy one, fully purified, the liberated one. Arahang, Arahang, Arahang. Buddha is Samma Sambuddho, the perfectly enlightened one. Samma Sambuddho. The Buddha is Bhagava, the Blessed One, the one who embodies all the most excellent and meritorious qualities, and from great compassion spreads the waves of blessings out over the world. Bhagava, the Blessed One. Buddha is Arahang, the worthy one, purified, the liberated one, Arahang, Arahang, Arahang. Samma Sambuddho, perfectly enlightened one. The one whose unobstructed knowledge has fathomed the true nature of all dharmas, of all phenomena. Samma Sambuddho. He is Bhagava, the Blessed One, the one of great compassion, the source of countless blessings for the world. Bhagava, the Blessed One. Arahang, the worthy one, the purified one, the liberated one. Arahang. Samma Sambuddho, perfectly enlightened one, who has understood, penetrated the true nature of all phenomena. perfectly enlightened Sammasambuddho. Bhagava, the Blessed One, source of countless blessings for the world. Arahang, the worthy one. Sammasambuddho, the perfectly enlightened one. Bhagava, the Blessed One. Okay, now come back to your bodies. The felt sense of the body. Take a few deep breaths, mindful breaths in and out. And then you can open your eyes. And then you could rub the face. And then especially the buttocks and the knees. And we'll be getting up and doing another session of walking meditation the same way, taking each step mindfully, mindful of the step itself and of the contact of the foot on the ground. Okay, so let us stand And then we come back, we should be back in our seats. Let us say at 8:35. 8:35.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we come to the last phase in Buddhanussati. So during the earlier part of the day, we went through the 9 Buddha qualities. Now we've been doing only 3. But you see there are 9 here, and those who have been with us all day have gone through all 9. So what we're going to do in the last session, you choose one of these qualities, one of these designations, the one that resonates with you the most. And through this session, you just do exclusive focus on that quality. And in doing this practice, it's helpful to be able to maybe lightly visualize an image of the Buddha. So if you have an image, a favorite image, you don't have to visualize in detail intensively, but just keep it sort of either in the forefront of the mind or in the background of the mind to help keep the mind focused on that quality. So I just run through them again, through the 9 qualities, just in a quick review. There's Arahang, the worthy one, Sammasambuddho, the perfectly enlightened one, Vijacharana Sampanno, one accomplished in clear knowledge and excellent conduct, Sugato, the fortunate one or the blissful one, Lokavidu, knower of the world, Anuttaro Purisa Dhammasarati, unsurpassed trainer of persons to be tamed, Satta Deva Manusanang, teacher of devas and humans, Buddho, the enlightened one or the awakened one, and Bhagava, the blessed one. So you choose one, and I don't want to interfere, but I would suggest not taking the long, more complex ones, but take one of the simpler formulations. And during this last session, it'll just be 15 minutes. You make that the exclusive object of focus. You recite it again and again in your heart, turning the quality, the designation over and over in the region of the heart and generating that esteem, admiration, reverence, veneration towards the Buddha. Okay, let us start. And I will end the session again with another clink of the chime. Okay, now we're going to do the sharing of the merits. So in fact, this practice of Buddhanussati is said to be an extremely powerful source of merits, very highly meritorious meditation subject, because we've been focusing on the qualities of the Buddha, the qualities that the Buddha had acquired after practicing countless aeons, the paramitas over countless aeons. And so now we're going to share these merits with all beings throughout the universe. And so first we take the thought of loving kindness, the wish for the welfare and happiness of all beings, and extend that mind of loving kindness to the entire universe of sentient beings, wishing that all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be free from harm and suffering. And then there's in the text for the chanting that was given out, and maybe you have on your computers, there's a verse for the end of the meditation. We'll chant it or recite it both in Pali and then in English. Dukkha patacani dukkha bhaya patacani bhaya soka patacani soka hantu sabepi panino. May those in suffering be free from suffering. May those in fear be free from fear. May those in sorrow be free from sorrow. May all living beings also be thus. And we recite sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu,
And then I will dedicate or share the merits of our practice today with the Dhamma protecting devas and the nagas, and then with all beings. So I'll recite these verses in Pali. Akasata cha bhumata deva naga mihidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu sasanang. Akasata cha bhumata deva naga mihidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu desanang. Akasata cha bhumata deva naga mihidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu mang parang. Okay, now we're going to stand and then do 3 half bows to the Buddha. Then Hong Jan will lead us in that.
And bow to Bante, please.
Thank you, Bante.
Thank you, Bante.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Bante.
Bante.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bante. Face is bright like
Thank you, Bante.
Thank you.
Tomorrow.
Keep
Come
well.
back tomorrow. Don't forget, tomorrow we come back for the practice of loving kindness meditation. Tomorrow will be all day of loving kindness meditation.
Thank you,
yes,
Bante.
Thank you,
Bante.
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 Buddy.
Thank you. Good night,
Love
Bante.
you.
Thank you, Bante.
Thank you, dear brother.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
night.
Thank
you.
you. Good
Adios.
night.
Night, Bante.
Bye. Nice to see you, Bante. Be
Thank you.
safe.
Okay.
Wonderful to see
Thank you.
you. Thank you.
Amitabha.